you to raise your hand and be recognized by the chair to speak on anything that's on the floor that we're talking about. So a very open format. There's no preference of council over floor, so I'll recognize people in terms of when they put their hands up. As a committee of the whole, we don't make decisions here as much as recommend decisions to the regular committee meeting either tonight or at some future date. And so with that, Les, if you could fire us up, we'll be on camera.
You're on camera.
We're on camera. Call the committee of the whole meeting to order. And the first item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Councillor Doherty and Councillor Smith. All those in favor?
Just one move.
This one.
Oh, come on, can't you guys remember that? Yeah. All right, and the first item of business is Sandy Elzinga. Is Sandy here? Or, but the rest of the committee is. Okay, and so it's the Grand Forks Mural Committee. If you could introduce yourself.
Yes, please. I am part of the Grand Forks Mural Committee. My name is Benson Inside. Just one small part of the representation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilman. And Grand Forks. Great to see you guys. As we last left off, you guys will be very aware that we are keen on putting up some paint in City Park. We figure it's a very iconic place in Grand Forks to start. We would love to showcase a bit of the Grand Forks heritage, culture, recreation, everything we have to offer in a pictorial format. And we figure the lift and loot stations in the City Park are a prime example, a prime place to start to facilitate this. We have, at our last talk, decided to come up with a theme as at Council's request. We have brainstormed, and thanks to Councilman Warshagan for joining us on our last little venture. He was a great help for our little tete-a-tetes and answering questions and providing us with great insight. We have come up with the graphic on the far right there, please, the river through, yes, please. This is just a quick graphic of a placement of, this is an aerial view of the two stations, the lift and the loop, the stairs being on the south side. Thank you. The arrows pointing will be the location of the mural. We are proposing to do 4 sides, 1 on each building. Now, the reason we're doing this is the theme. We've decided to go with the iconic theme of the river, seeing as it gives Grand Forks its name, a lot of its beauty, a lot of its wonder and heritage, and a lot of its entertainment and excitement. So we would like to propose almost as a river runs through it theme, where the river itself will not be the exact theme of the, or the not the aesthetic representation. It'll be the facilitator for what we want to see in the park, what we want to see in Grand Forks, and what we already have. So as we're looking at here, these are not actual drawn images. This is not what it will look like in the end. These are purely composites of the thematic material within the mural. As you see now on your far left, that is not the side facing the park. That is on the far left side of that graphic that we saw. So the mural essentially will start with the Granby or the Kettle on either side and slowly wrap around to join in the middle. Now, as you see there, we have tubers along the river, then we have wildlife and camping along the next building. Now, that will be directly on the other side to the right of the building. So that will essentially cover 2 sides of the, I think this is the lift station on the right. Now, if we can have the next graphic, please, you will notice that this is directly opposite to the other. This is behind the washrooms there. You can see the glass where the light lets in. And that will wrap around to meet the park, meet activities such as, it's already full of music. It's already full of recreation, but we would like to facilitate more. There's plenty of room for all sorts of activities, volleyball. There's plenty of fields to play in. There's a lot of room for children. We would like people, when they come into City Park, not only to wonder what they could do, but see what there is there. Right? There's a BMX track in behind there. I have high versions of these if you would like an email these to peruse them with more detail. But again, these are just quick composites. This is not what the mural will look like in the end. But these are composites done from other murals that we have stitched together for an idea of what it could look like and the theme. Excellent. Thank you. So that's what we're proposing. We're proposing a river runs through it, essentially, Grand Forks theme. We would like the river itself, both of the rivers, to wrap from the buildings and somewhat meet in the middle, just to showcase what we have.
3D?
That is a possibility.
Well, it has kind of that standout effect.
Right, most definitely. We can definitely build that in. Also, there are possibilities, obviously budget contained and structurally dependent, to add 3D elements such as protruding relief and maybe even moss walls and who knows what, right? So it's not purely just for paint, but the paint will be the main substrate, will be the main medium.
Okay, further questions, comments? This is on its way to tonight's regular meeting.
Yeah.
And the purpose being, I'm assuming, to assign some participation of the city and to formally kick it off. Councilor Verjagen.
I believe so, yeah. I would make the motion to move it to tonight's.
Yeah. Okay, so the motion's on the floor to move it to tonight's meeting. Councilor Campbell?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I know that there was some concern from the residents of the apartment complex adjacent that they would like to see something done with those buildings aesthetically. And I'm noticing that's the side that isn't proposed to have anything on it. So I just wonder whether we've had those discussions with those people or whether, there's something looking forward that could be incorporated in what you're planning on doing in the other two sites.
Wonderful. We haven't had discussions with them specifically, but within our own group, yes. We chose these walls. There was a vote, essentially, and these walls were the ones chosen only because we wanted to facilitate people in City Park doing something in City Park, not so much to attract people. It will attract people anyways, but with that question perfect, we can use this theme of the rivers and continue the wrap. Anytime somebody wants, we'd like to leave it very open-ended and not try to saturate the entirety of the Grand Forks history within these murals. We would like this to be a springboard, so somebody would essentially put up a heritage mural somewhere far away in Grand Forks where heritage was most prevalent. In here, we want to really focus City Park.
Yeah, I think those residents were more concerned with landscaping and shrubbery and things like that than with a mural on there, but I might be wrong. Councilor Verjagen.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just want to thank you for all your hard work that you put into this and the fact that you were able to do some mock-ups here. And as to Councilor Kendall's point, I believe Mayor Ted is correct in as much as I think it had to do with aesthetics in as much as landscaping and things like that. And the far side would not necessarily be right towards that Riverside apartment building, but it would have an angle towards it because it would be the four sides. And then the back side of the building is already broken up quite a bit with the washroom sign and the piping and everything else. And I think if you were to put some more paint on there, I think you would just kind of...
It was just they had...
Yeah. I think we planted some trees and such since then.
Anything further? Hearing none, the motion is on the floor to move this to tonight's meeting. Excellent presentation. I think you see a lot of head nodding support, but we'll formalize it tonight. All those in favor? Carry. Thank you, Council. The next presentation is the Boundary Chamber. James Wilson. It's your quarterly report, James. It's basically enough.
Yeah, well, I bumped it into more of a 6-month report.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what I'm here to do. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me here today to give you my report here since January. Just I highlighted a bunch of few things that the Chamber has been involved with for you, and I'm here to answer any questions. Not much. You want to go through them all, or
Well, you can highlight a few, possibly.
Oh, sure. I'll highlight a few things. We recently had a Biz After Biz over at Neighbors Computers here in town. They had a grand opening or reopening, and it was a great event. We had over 50 people showing up, and we had a bunch of other businesses kind of showcase what they're doing, and Selkirk came and spoke, and so it was a good opportunity to swap information and business, and it was a good turnout that way. Right now we're doing the ambassador program. We kicked it off, and I had my board member, Shannon Porfili. She's the one running it, and she's got 6 volunteers signed up already and looking for some more. And we had a couple already at the Good Sam event, showcasing and highlighting and answering questions what's going on in Grand Forks. So it's going off. A couple other things. I met with where is it on here? Toda. We finished our Boundary BC website. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it. It's revamped. It's more for the tourism of the entire region. That's something really interesting. I've been working with, it's not on here actually, but I forgot to mention I've talked with a few of the businesses that have signs that are kind of a little bit dilapidated, out there. And we've got a couple that are fixed or one down and working on some more. So just a few things that the chamber's doing, working with the downtown business merchants and that board, and trying to support them in planning events. So yeah, just a few highlights.
In reference to the All Candidates Forum,
Yes.
I'm kind of hoping that we won't do the traditional on this one, and that we'll try something a little more interactive.
Well, maybe you and I need to talk then. Well, yeah, I hear you have some ideas, right?
Well, and I think council discussed it too.
Okay.
I would hope that we do have a chance to shape it a little differently than it's been.
Well, I'm open to it. I have the school booked and I have the date booked, so it's a matter of, or the auditorium in the school there.
Right.
And so it's a matter of just now how the format wants to go. We can start planning that now. It'd be great to meet with
Okay.
local counselors or.
All right, well, we'll hear some input on that if people have ideas to bring to James or to me. I can be a conduit with that.
Yeah, and we can sit down and actually start planning it a little bit. Great.
Further items on this? Chris?
Just, Your Worship, just as a potential candidate, or as, so I'm going to put my hat in the ring, what format was council looking towards for the all candidates forum? What?
Well, I don't think council has discussed it as much as I have discussed it with the round table at the meeting at the Omega.
Yeah, I remember you and I remember.
There was a discussion just quickly of having a table approach to it, since the performance of councillors has a lot to do with not them getting up and making 5-minute speeches, but being able to operate in a group at a table. And so the concept from our table was that be the format for part of the, or all of the candidates forum, where candidates would move from table to table, and the interviewers would stay the same with a monitor or a facilitator at each table to make sure no one gets beat up on or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that just very roughly.
Yeah.
But in terms of ideas here, I think that it is time to feed them to James and to his board to see if we can interest them in that, if that's council's desire here.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, Nigel.
Your Worship, good morning, and councillors. I attended the last all candidates meeting, and it was the one and only one, and it lasted, I guess, for 2 hours or something like that. What was obvious was a lot of people were interested in inquiring of the prospective candidates, and there was not sufficient time to get to everybody at all. I would suggest that 2 or 3 meetings would be more appropriate, and maybe in a different format for each different meeting, something like that, giving people chance to inquire of their future councillors.
Consideration. Thank you. All right, receiving a report. Councillor Shagnon, all those in favor? Thank you, Jane. Keep up the good work out there. It's a tough job. I know. I've been there in that position.
Thank you.
And Scott?
No, we're going to do that at the end of
At the end.
At the end of the after recess, and then we'll go into the asset management.
I knew that. Yeah. All right. Presentations from staff. We have the presentation of our department manager reports. Mr. Allen.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have the building inspection and bylaw enforcement report. It's a little bit tougher for the building inspector to be on all the bylaw enforcement when we are increasing our building permits. Last report we were at $900,000 in building permits. Now you can see that we're in $2.46 million in construction value. So the building inspector has many files on his desk, and definitely very busy there. So it's a little bit tougher for him to get through bylaw, but he is working on a variety of bylaw infractions. In particular, working on a fire damage property located on 65th Avenue. We're also looking at some unsightly premises, but we're finding that the public is quite receptive to the unsightly process and the working with the bylaw officer. So it's gone very well. So you can see that a good sign for our local economy is that the building inspection construction value is up. So there is some confidence in the community that way, and it is moving forward positively. The next one, we have the Chief Financial Officer. So the finance department is extremely busy at tax time, and July 2nd was the final collection date, and that was a very intense period of time for our staff, and it went over very well. We have an internal casual position to cover the accounts receivable clerk who's away on illness. We've been working with the land use management process that council hosted on the city's asset or land inventory. Working with the contaminated sites regulatory pieces that we're required to do under PSAB 3160, which is legislated, so we must come up with the contaminated sites and have that registered with our community so the auditors can review that. And continuing working with our auditor on different processes to streamline our work process. And then working to revise the tangible capital asset policy to provide clarity in the wording. Mr. Mayor, the finance department is probably one of the most, quietly the busiest department in the community. The manager of development engineering, so the RFP for the downtown beautification upgrades has been let. The RFP for 68th Street paving has been let, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. The tender for City Hall construction has been closed and was awarded to Hot Hill Tech Contracting. Sasha put together the land optimization and showcase that you just alluded to. The ribbon cutting for the new kiosks. We also have Sasha attended an economic development workshop in Oliver, which was along the same lines that we're hearing from the province that the city of Grand Forks is providing some leadership in that respect on just some of the initiatives that we're working on. I just actually had word from the provincial economic development officer. He said they were alluding to the fact that they were looking to see what Grand Forks is doing. We held an open house regarding the City Hall construction, which is underway, and we also had the license of occupation for the ATV club for the staging area. You can see that Mr. Mayor has been a very busy month for the manager of engineering. The manager of operations, support for events. We've had many events in the month of July, and it was an extremely busy month. Completion of the Observation Mountain and Beacon Fence site. We had some vandalism up there, and we had to repair that and replace it. Shouldering on Granby to deal with drainage for snow removal and to ensure that we don't get the water sitting on the edge of the road. We have hanging baskets and all the planters are out. The campground entrance, you can see that they planted that up. It looks amazing. Water valve repair and maintenance, preparation for the water metering, making sure that we have the ability to shut off homes at the time that we're installing the water meters for the installation process. And then the Market Street irrigation, brickwork, and tree well restoration commenced. And working on the graffiti on the Black Rain Bridge on 68. Yes.
One of the things that really impressed the Good Sam Club was the sign welcome.
Right. Yeah. One of the things.
No, they'd never seen it before. The city actually made a sign for them.
And working with Sarah, who's been in charge of the events with Diane, it was one of the initiatives that they brought up, and they said, as a welcoming thing, you're going to start to see that a little bit more on behalf of the events. It's not a big expense for us to do that, but it is something to invite. It's inviting and saying thanks for coming.
That and a combination of Councilors Smith and Kendall going around door to door at the campers and introducing themselves.
Yeah, on behalf of the city. Yeah.
I just wanted to compliment the city on the information brochure that was in the mail last week with respect to water meters and the location and information that's very pertinent to that. So congratulations, good job.
Okay.
The fire chief has been very busy this time of year too. You can see that he's had up to the end of June. He had, you can see the number of calls, 27 first responders, 1 rescue, 9 fire. He had an explosion at the structure fire, the residence on Darcy Road. They did some training at the Big White. The invitation to attend the Father's Day events at Harry Stanley's, and then the public education fire hall tour and the safety presentation of Sunshine Valley in the People Center Group. The fire chief has been busy on multiple aspects, but we're looking at working with the bylaw officer on the houses that have been burnt and left. The corporate and community services, the event coordination for all the events, working with the manager of operations, preparation for the environment committee week, the street banner program, working to facilitate getting that going. Coordination again with the banners for the downtown businesses to purchase. I think they're Sarah, are they the printers now? Oh, they're done. So we have some new banners that are going to be going up that the businesses have sponsored, and they are done and prepared by local artists. The development of the monthly newsletter, again, organizing the attendance of the sneak peek at City Hall so they can come out and see what we're doing. And working on the development of the elections page on the city website. For those that are interested, they can go to the website and you can see that all of the information pertinent to the elections there. Perform various human resources requirements for the city as well. And those are the reports, Mr. Mayor. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Questions, comments? Motion to receive the reports. Councillor Smith. Further? No, again, I just, the thinking ahead part of that really, I think, is so good. I mean, I have a comfort level at this point that our staff members are, and I hate that word, proactive, so I don't use it, but anticipating things that are coming up. So I think that's really a sign of strength there. Thank you. Appreciate that. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, and the next item I'm sure you can comment on, but it's the Community Works Fund, which is really our gas tax fund. But in fact, they've opened it up and added a number of new categories that are going to be eligible for the use of gas tax.
Yeah.
And with that, Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this was sent to us by the folks at UBC, by the UBCMs, and basically it tells us it alludes to the changes in the program, which will allow us the latitude to do that. So as the new council in Council of Strategic Planning for 2015, they will come up with their priorities for where they would like to see the gas tax funding to go. The last council talked about, or the previous council talked about putting it away for. Actually, for many councils, talked about it going away for water metering. This stuff will now allow the council to talk about where they would like to see the gas tax funding to go. So we're going to talk a little bit more about asset management today, but allow us. What it does is essentially allows us a little bit more latitude in allocating the funding. You can see that we're going to have later on today. You're going to see that we're going to have some big projects that we're going to have to take on over the next several years, and this will allow us to strategically put our funding away for those things. It's a positive move from UBCM in that respect for the gas tax funding, but essentially requires a resolution from council to support that. So it's here for you today, and then it'll be on the council meeting tonight.
I see it on there already. Yeah. Receiving the report, Councillor Smith. Comments, questions, Donna?
Well, thank you for putting the RFP on the website on Thursday. In the contract regarding for water meters, but since we were told before that from this fund is where the water meters will be paid, reading the contract, I'm not sure, is it the full amount or does it depend on how many meters they install, how much is taken out of our gas tax fund?
Mr. Allen, the details of that, we have the money set aside for
1.3 million. The tender came in at 9. We negotiated down to 900,000. We're in a position right now where that will be affected depending on the number of pits that we have to install.
Right. So there is some fluctuation in that cost, but in fact, our allocation of 210,000 per year is what we're talking about, because those monies that are being used, they are used now in that contract, were monies we set aside from the gas tax money over a period of time, over 6 years, I guess.
I think it was a little bit longer than that. The council made, I think it was the council before this council that started to save the money for water meters, and
right.
And you know, they started to put the money away way back then.
Right. So does that answer your question?
So just to double check that I understand correctly, it's not a set amount, it'll depend on the completion of that. So there might be some money left in the gas tax fund after water meters are done?
In our own personal gas tax reserve, yes, that would be expected.
So, Mr. Mayor, if we move through the contract allocation and we move through the installations and we find that we're doing more in-home installations of the water meters, what'll happen is that'll allow us the ability to hold another $400,000 or so,
Right.
depending on how things go, in the gas tax reserve. If, for instance, we find that we're putting in a lot of pit meters, that could bring and drive the price up. So right now we have 1.3 allocated and estimated. The price came in at 900,000, but if, for instance, if people start to refuse to have water meters put in their house, for
Yes,
instance,
yes, driving the cost.
driving the cost up, they'd be driving their own cost up. So
So in fact, that reserve that we have is already under scrutiny for a number of other projects the city is planning. So we're excited to see that we're going to have some reserve to work with. Yes.
Sorry, Julia.
Julie.
Yeah. Mr. Allen, I believe you just stated that if people refuse to have water meters put in their homes and therefore you have to install pit meters, then that could drive your cost up. From my understanding, you've stated that people that refuse to have water meters put in their homes will be paying for their own pit meters. Could you please clarify?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, when the thing is, the city will have to put out the funding for that up front.
Right.
We'll have to deal with it up front. So we have to pay our bills right now, and then we'll collect from the homeowners as, whether they pay for it up front at that moment, or they ask for it to be collected at the time of their property taxes are collected. Depends on how we're going to do that.
But there will be unavoidable cost to the city, and even though we collect from the customer.
Absolutely. Yes, but we still have to pay our bills within the 30 days of invoice.
Is that clear, Julie?
So that money, once it's paid, will then go back into the gas tax fund.
Absolutely, Mr.
So that really won't vary the cost then in the long run.
Well, again, other than the fact that the city will incur some costs in having to go through this, not only in staff time, but some hard costs involved in it as well. So even though we may go to the person and say, you've got to cover the cost, that's not going to cover the soft cost to us.
You will be collecting more money though from pit meters because you're requiring the residents to pay for their own meter at that point. So it actually will work out in your benefit.
It'd be net zero.
No.
Well, we're aiming for a net zero on that.
So will we be required to pay for the meter as well with the pit meter?
Mr. Mayor, for instance, I think there's a little bit of a discrepancy there. I think the pit meter will be installed, but for instance, the homeowner has the outside irrigation, and we have to put the pit meter in due to the fact that they have an outside irrigation. They won't be on the hook for that. There will be no cost for that because it's a pre-existing condition. But if that condition changes and they decide they would choose to not have it inside the home water meter, and they would prefer to have it outside the home water meter, then they would pay that difference. So we don't know what that estimated cost is going to be yet.
Thank you. Yes.
If there is a successful legal challenge to the use of the gas tax money being put towards water meters, what will be the status of the water metering contract?
If you were to get an injunction then against the city utilizing the gas tax money,
I'm not sure how the courts would award that, Mr. Mayor. I'd have to take that to our lawyers. The contract will have points in there that we would be on the hook for. I'm sure we'd have to be on the hook for delay claims.
Because to be clear, I signed that check just recently.
The contract.
Yes.
The contract has been signed.
Right.
The installation of water meters, I can't remember if it was Kamloops that tried an injunction. I don't know. It was based on the discrepancies in the contract. I don't think that I've ever heard of it. I don't know if the judge would have allowed it or not.
Okay, so we don't know. However, it's going to cost us a lot of money if we were to attempt to stop the process at this point.
Has City Council assessed the possible cost-benefit analysis if there is litigation and if the contract is subsequently determined to be null and void?
Okay, and the answer that Mr. Allen just gave us was that there's no precedent here, so we don't know, because nobody's ever done that before.
It would also be an in-camera issue.
We'd be talking about this in camera, Mr. Mayor. It would involve conversation with the public. It would involve conversation with our lawyers and council only.
Absolutely. So when we hear from the lawyers, we can discuss it in camera at more depth.
Well, I request that the information be made available to the public once you've discussed it with your lawyers.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I'm stuck on this. Can I go to
Your Worship, I don't believe that the city would even consider discussing any of that kind of an issue until and unless they were served with the injunction papers.
Right.
So to discuss it
Prematurely here.
prematurely.
Good answer. Was that your
Exactly.
Mr. Allen?
Yeah, the point made is absolutely correct. Without the papers, I mean, the contract is signed, the people are starting to work basically immediately. The city will not be engaging our lawyers until such a time we have litigation. We don't just seek opinions from the lawyers until we actually have a reason to do that.
So there's no attempt to address the situation prior to litigation?
Well, I've never heard of this before, so,
Well, there is no situation.
you know, until
We've been through this already.
until
so
we get it from a lawyer. I've sensed some frustration from council on this matter. Are we deviating from what we're actually being asked to
This is
discuss?
the
at this point?
UBCM, Mr. Mayor. This is just the UBCM gas tax funding where
Yeah.
we're allocating it, so it was.
Can we see to the point here further on the gas tax issue? So, you understand what's happening here is that we do have a gas tax reserve that will have some surplus, we're hoping, as the water meter program rolls out, and that our revenues are approximately $210,000 per year under this new grant program, which has been enlarged to include a number of other worthwhile purposes, and consequently, I see it on the books as one of our funding sources for some strategic moves that the city can be making. Further to that, Council? Councilor Shagan.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think this is absolutely a very, very positive step by the UBCM to make that small block so much bigger, so we can now be able to find this money for other projects that aren't so.
And the other thing that we've done, because council agreed to this, is that we have told the regional director, Rolly Russell, that we would discuss our use of gas tax money. And so I will be talking to him about some of the suggestions at this point only that funding to various kinds of projects be partly gas tax funded. So that would be nice to see that gas tax money really gets as much or maybe a little more, I think, than we do out of that program. So potentially here we could combine forces on a project.
Thank you.
Thank you. And further.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if this is the appropriate time in the agenda to ask these questions, but I'm just wondering about the water metering bylaws. Would I be able to maybe ask a question or two about that now, or would there be another time?
We're actually getting to this further up down on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I believe the water meter bylaw is on the council agenda for tonight.
Well, that's where I've seen it.
We already had that committee of the whole.
Right, so we have first, second, and third reading.
Yes, that's the
Of those
question.
tonight.
That's the question that I'm wanting to ask is around surrounding the readings. Why would the readings be made in 3 consecutive motions, right, without being able to have any response from the public? And I'm also wondering, have the water meter bylaws been put up on the website for all of Grand Forks, City of Grand Forks to see? And I'm also wondering how people are going to feel when they see that if they are in violation of those bylaws, that they could be receiving a fine of up to maximum $10,000 a day. I'm just wondering, do the people of Grand Forks know that you folks are planning on implementing those kinds of bylaws for the people of this city?
I would hope they're keeping up with things because we have made efforts to put this material out. And Mr. Allen, how have we laid this out?
So, Mr. Mayor, as part of the process, what we did is at the previous committee of the whole meeting where we had that available and open for discussion as part of the regular process as you introduced today. The bylaws, we submitted comparable bylaws from other communities. So we didn't basically generate a new bylaw. This is something that's being done in communities across BC. So they've paid the legal costs to have these things done. The subject of the bylaw is made available for people to review at the time. We don't put them on the website when they're in draft form, just due to the fact that they are in draft form. And to address the question, the community charter, when you're dealing with bylaws of this nature, unless it involves land issues, it can require the council and allow council to do all three readings, and then give it a rest period, and then bring it back for the 4th and final reading and adopt the bylaw. This doesn't involve land issues, so we're meeting the terms of the community charter. and that is the law. So that's what those are the points that we're addressing, Mr. Mayor. And I think that the new council process with committee of the whole gives it a little bit more of an introduction period, because what you've actually done is you gave it a month with a 2-week, with an introduction period, then you gave it a month before you brought it back to council. So it's given it ample time for review.
Okay, thank you. I think we've answered most of the questions that you had.
The question is, when were these posted on the website and how much time did you
They're not
have?
posted on the website. Did you hear him say? They're not posted because they're still in draft form.
Okay, so then how do we, as residents
You
of
come to the
community-
previous meeting that was a committee of the whole, where they were presented to the group in writing and were discussed.
And when would that meeting have been? You're
That
saying a
meeting
month
would have
ago?
been
Last committee of the whole meeting, Mr. Mayor, June 23rd.
June 23rd, sorry.
Your worship, wouldn't the copies of the bylaws that are being discussed be available on the agenda?
Yes.
And
Yes.
included, so if somebody wanted to go to the, the committee
Right.
agenda, the bylaws are there in total.
Okay, so without going further off topic here, we are on a topic in our agenda that has to do with the use of gas tax money. So can I ask, is there anything pointed in terms of the topic on the floor that I could clarify? For council as well? Pretty clear? And we have it on the floor. Councilor Smith, I think, made a motion. All those in favor? All right. Riverside Drive closure. This is a partial road closure, consolidation to alleviate a 1.8 meter building and canopy encroachment. Mr. Allen, could you further lighten that there?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll pass this over to our Manager of Engineering Development, and she'll introduce.
Welcome, Sasha.
Good morning, Your Worship, Council. We've had an application for a strata conversion, and in order to complete the strata conversion, there can be no encroachments in land or in airspace. So there's an existing portion of the building that encroaches onto the sidewalk, including the canopy that hangs over. So our recommendation is to close that piece of sidewalk right of way, separate it from our property and consolidate it with 7330 Riverside Drive and sell that portion to that owner.
So he can consolidate and get a strata title on it.
That's right.
I'll move that. Councilor Doherty. So what we're recommending is recommending it to tonight's meeting. Yeah. Further discussion?
I just have a question.
Councilor Kendall.
Yeah, would doing this, would it affect, the usage of the sidewalk or anything for?
No, because we'll be putting a right-of-way agreement together onto the property to ensure that public has access to it as well as us.
Thank you.
So is this one of those annoying technicalities that's costing the owner a fair amount of money and us time?
Well, this is exactly when it comes to meeting the terms of the Local Government Act and the Community Charter. For us to bring this to council now, it's helping streamline so it's before council. But it is one of those things that does annoy the developer because, they want to move it along. And it is before council. It's a small housekeeping item. Actually, it works to our benefit because it'll reduce our asset inventory. So as we're looking at our asset management plan, it actually takes a chunk of sidewalk out that we would have to amortize and replace. So it's to our benefit.
Okay. Councilor Crock.
No, I'd be willing to make the motion.
It's on the floor,
Oh,
Councilor.
okay. Yeah, okay, no second, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Anything from the gallery? Anybody have any questions, comments? Hearing none, the motion to refer it to tonight's meeting, Councilor Doherty makes it. All those in favor? Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you.
Got more?
Yeah, I got one more.
Yeah. Okay, you got the next one too. Okay, this is the Legion. Canadian Legion.
Yes,
And
Your
they-
Worship, so we've had a request from the Royal Canadian Legion for a development variance permit requesting a 20-foot setback to a 2-foot setback. A few years ago, they built a deck onto the back of the building, and they just want to put a roof over the deck. So we've sent referrals out to surrounding property owners, and they've been afforded the opportunity to come to this meeting if they have any issues with the roof.
Councillor Smith.
Just a point of clarification, it's not actually a deck, they built basically a fenced enclosure where they've got a couple of horseshoe pits, and that's what they were in trouble with.
Well, to us, it looks like a patio then. Yeah.
I'll move that motion.
Councillor Doherty makes a motion to refer this to tonight's meeting. Any further comment?
Session, did we receive anybody not in favor of it? No comments?
We had
No comments.
that open.
Yeah, what we did according to the Local Government Act, we're required to send notifications out to properties within 100 meters.
Right.
And we didn't receive any feedback.
It's deer habitat you're encroaching on there. Councillor Rishak.
That was my question.
Oh, deer.
No, not the deer habitat, but whether or not there was anyone as a complaint or if there was any individuals who had issues.
Right.
Nothing to do.
Okay, motion to refer to tonight. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. That's it, Sasha, you're down. Okay, we are down to the CFO for untangible capital assets.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is, I'll pass it over to Ms. Shepherd to walk us through what the changes to the policy are.
Thank you. So the first change, the biggest clarification was in the segmentation and pooling section. The wording wasn't very clear in the furniture, equipment, and technology. A lot of times when we buy computers in bulk, like our threshold for computers right now is $5,000, but there was some confusion on if we bought 3 computers in bulk, if we would record them as one asset, or if we would record them as single assets, and then if we had to buy them all together, if it was throughout the year. So basically we clarified so that as long as we buy enough computers throughout the year, the whole year, that will make that 5,000 threshold, that we will capitalize them. And it just makes it more consistent for our reporting of our assets.
So, Mr. Mayor, this is part of the process when we're required by law under PSAP 3150, right? 3150 for us to record all of our tangible capital assets, everything that we own, every telephone pole, every blind, every desk, everything. So we have to amortize all of that. So as part of this process, the auditors come in and they make sure that we're meeting all of our obligations. So Ms. Shepherd has been going through this and working with the auditors to make sure that we are in compliance with all these things. So this is the pooling of the assets to allow us the ability to throw it all together. So there's certain things that are difficult for us to kind of pull off as one. We like to sometimes look at them as a whole. So for instance, computers, we like to look at them as a whole because if we look at them individually, they're only worth about $1,000 a piece. But if we look at them as a whole, then it allows us a little bit more clarity from the auditor's perspective. So that allows us a little bit more, I guess you want to call it latitude in respect to that. I mean, this is what the auditors have recommended.
And consistency.
And consistency.
They want us to be consistent so that we don't one time record it as an operating expense and then the following time record it as a capital item. So that was just clarifying the wording on that. We also added a living document clause to the end of the policy that gives us a little bit of latitude to make sure that the information we're recording for our capital assets is actually useful for us to be able to look back and identify these assets correctly. So if there's something that doesn't necessarily fit in the threshold, but we would like to record it as a capital asset, this, of course, we would have to have the justification from our auditors, but this will give us the latitude to do that, so that because our main goal is to have useful information for our capital assets.
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, this will be before council many times over the next several years as things change. So just up for council, this is a housekeeping item more than anything. And I would expect that you'll see this a couple of times a year or at least once a year.
And an update.
And an update just on, as things go through, as your auditors come in and provide their recommendations back, this is what we do.
Clear?
Yep.
She's so good. Okay, and so should we receive that?
To receive it and then refer to, this policy amendment will go to council in August.
Councilor Shagg makes the motion.
It'll go to council in August.
All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Board then discussion.
Excuse me.
Yes, Donna.
Hi, I remember it being discussed that although the computers the counselors had were not too old, that had budgeted for getting more computers. If the public is curious about what the decision was of how many computers were bought for the council members, is that going to be clear with you, the new system?
Mr. Mayor, during the budget process, we can explain that to council at the time if there is other purchases, because there's purchases for computers that happen as an annual replacement plan, but there's also computers that crash and simply wear out. So at that time they become operating. But during the budget process, absolutely that information can be available to the public.
Like me spelling coffee on my keyboard.
For instance.
Yes. So we do have a process of evaluating that. The $5,000 a year, I assume, is the global budget to keep that stock of working machinery up to date and take out the worst and account for some of what might happen in terms of a contingency. Further? All right, so we're due to the repeal. This is a committee of the whole to give the first 3 readings to repeal bylaw 1780R at the August 18th regular meeting. So not at tonight's meeting. And this is the repeal of revitalization bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This bylaw expires this year. In order for us to address this properly, we have to repeal the bylaw. It was the bylaw that was put in place, the tax exemption certificate for Interport. And basically our recommendation to us from our auditors was to repeal this bylaw at this point. So this is why it's before council. That doesn't preclude us from looking at another tax incentive bylaw down the line, but it does address this specific bylaw. That wouldn't stop council from looking at an incentive bylaw for businesses or quadrants of the community that you want to revitalize, or if you want to provide a commercial or industrial revitalization bylaw. We would talk about that as a separate bylaw.
Right, it's just getting it off the books.
This is
cleaning up.
housekeeping.
Comments? Councilor Smith. Making the motion. Councilor Shagg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just out of curiosity, has Interport come back to us and asked for an extension? I believe you're allowed up to 10 years, are you not? To 5 years?
Mr. Mayor,
or is it the whole 10 years right here, including, so they're ineligible at this point?
There was only one, there was 5 year with a 1 allowable 5-year
Right.
extension, and that has been taken, and this is the 10th year, on the final year.
Yeah, it's quick. Time goes by. That was done 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Councilor Crog was the mayor.
Probably. A long time ago. I was younger.
Okay. So we're referring this to the August 18th. All those in favor? Carried. All right. Now we come down to an interesting portion of the agenda. Were we going to break and then?
I thought we were doing this one and then the break.
Which one is okay? This one.
We've got
Wastewater first.
we've got wastewater treatment plant assessment.
Mr. Mayor, if you want to go to the courthouse from the public and then we can break and then bring it back to the asset.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're going to open this up to the public and council. I beg your indulgence, but can you see? I think we have a number of people wanting to say things. Limiting it to say 2 minutes per person. That would councils concur with that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can speak in your place or you can come up front, but Would you please limit your comments to 2 minutes so that we can give other people an opportunity to speak?
There's no microphone. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Karin Bond, Karin. My last name is Bond, Bagn. My handsome companion is my guide dog, Walter the Wonder Dog. May I begin? May I proceed?
Yes.
Thank you. There has been an inordinate amount of acrimony and personal hostility associated with the issue of water metering. I've been asked to speak on behalf of many people who have not spoken up with respect to water metering. Many residents believe that their serious concerns about health hazards have not been adequately addressed by the city. Many people believe that their privacy concerns associated with the water metering have not been addressed by the city. People believe that the provisions of the bylaws, including the $10,000 a day fine for not wanting a water meter, are unreasonable and draconian, and that they should not be part of the city budget. Members of the community have provided research and news articles indicating that water meters and or smart meter technology that was installed in Sweden, Australia, Ireland, and the United States is now being removed because of health hazards. Many residents in Grand Forks believe that this information has not been adequately addressed by the city. Residents here have been told that Trail and Nelson were able to opt out of water meters, and we would like to know why our city council has not been as responsive to people's concerns. City residents and area residents have reported to me that they have felt bullied, that they have felt belittled, and that they have felt discouraged from engaging in dialogue with city officials. People have told me they have been prohibited from contacting the city directly. I and other people have been told that there's nothing that I or anyone else can do or say today that will stop this water metering. That raises the question about whether these water meters are being installed in accordance with this city's requirements under common law principles of fundamental justice and natural justice, and under the various rights accorded to anyone who's in Canada under Section 7 of the Charter of Human Rights and Freedoms. Section 7 provides that anyone has the right to life, liberty, and the security of person, and not to be deprived of that right except in accordance with the principles of fundamental justice. Section 2 of the Charter allows us all to have freedom of expression and freedom of association, and Section 15 of the Charter affords us the right not to be discriminated against.
That's run well over 2 minutes, and Council, do you wish to have any further comment from the speaker?
I would like the record to reflect that I have never had an opportunity, I've never taken the opportunity to speak before. I think that for me to be cut off in the middle of my comments means that I'm not being afforded my own rights as a citizen and as a resident. I'm legally blind. I can't read my written comments, and so I have prepared them, and I will provide them to be included as part of the record. We have begun a People's Review Commission to assess whether or not the people want to pursue litigation associated with water metering. We would far prefer to have a cooperative engagement with the city. If the city is not willing to do that, we will have to investigate other avenues. Anybody who has a question can contact the People's Review Commission for Water Metering at Post Office Box 2012, Grand Forks. Thank you.
Okay, and so we will await your written statement as well, would be appreciated. And I am apologetic for terminating your speaking. However, that's council's desire, and in fact, I think they reflect the fact that you're a latecomer to the issue, and that you're basically telling us things that we have been dealing with openly for several months. And further speakers, please avail yourself in spot or just speak where you are. We can hear pretty good in this room if you don't feel like you want to come all the way up. Sir.
My name is Bill Pepin. I'm here representing our owner Strata KAS 2204, Riverside Gardens, 7129 Riverside Drive. I understand you're mentioning there's another meeting tonight. Maybe this presentation should be at that meeting tonight.
Bill, what have you got? What's the topic?
The topic is about basic fee residential electricity.
Let's see if we can help Bill out here. What exactly is the problem?
Do you want me to read the letter, or should it be tonight's meeting?
You know what? Go ahead and read the letter. It doesn't sound like it's long.
Yeah. Okay, to Grand Forks City Council. Attention, Mayor and all City Council members. Upon review of our bi-monthly utilities invoice regarding the basic fee residential electricity, we owners of Strata KAS 2204 are opposed to the basic fee residential electricity charge of $32.92. We feel that the basic fee should be a part of the actual consumption used and not as an additional charge, which actually turns out to be a double charge of the basic amount of the $32.92 for the electricity used. We strongly request that the City Council cancel the basic fee bylaw as an extra charge to the actual consumption and have it as a minimum charge for the bi-monthly consumption use if anybody uses less electricity than that amount. I have the owner's signatures here to that.
Bill, if you could give us a copy of that, and I would like some time to go over this with our staff to ensure it's an issue that is going to be fresh to most of the council. And I think we need an opportunity to put our heads together and give you an answer. You're asking for fairness, and we need a bit of time to look at what's being done and what's fair.
Who could I give this?
You can bring it right up here. Right.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, and there's two signatures here. Yeah, no, right.
Okay, and
one great.
You're asking.
Yeah. But they
These
are.
are rates like telephone. Yeah, basic rate for having one.
Yeah.
And then you pay for your bills, your phone calls.
But or we used to just be this. Now we're showing.
Yeah.
Right here.
Same with your.
Oh,
same
now
with the water.
there's people.
Are there more?
One way of looking at the rates.
Yeah.
It's just an optic.
Yeah. Keep everybody
That's right.
Okay, calling us back to
All up
order.
together.
Calling us back to orders. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
And further speakers. Come on, Paul, and you're up.
Morning, Mr. Mayor.
Morning.
Member of City Council. As the representative of Good Sam, and the Kettle River Rambler, the local chapter. I want to thank the city and the city council for allowing us to have the assembly here in June. It was a great success. Also, I want to thank the city staff and the employees from Public Works for all their effort. The restroom was clean at all times. The garbage was picked up in the time of fashion. We had no complaint. The food supplied by the local caterer was excellent. The entertainment by local artists was well received. We had 142 rapes and 276 people. So it's one that's claimed to be the best assembly ever. We had people from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Wyoming, Oregon, Washington, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and many other places in BC, as far as Williams Lake and Vancouver Island. Besides the beautiful city and friendly people and merchants, two things stood out in particular. One was the sign that was installed that says, Grand Forks welcomes Good Sam. Remember?
For sure.
I think there was about 140 of our 142 people that took a picture with that. And that was a first. Nobody had ever seen a sign like this put up by any town or any city.
Yeah.
So that was good. The other thing that was really welcome, people really liked, was the city ambassador that went walking amongst the rig and explained to the city, to the people, what they could find out, what was in town for them. I received many comments about how friendly the locals were. Compared to some time we complained about them. I received a card, or many cards, to say thank you for organizing the assembly. One stand out in particular. The last two paragraphs state, your city has so much to offer us. I enjoyed the tour of the museum, the flour mill. Your merchants were very friendly and willing to help us suggest things to do. This is just one of many cards I received from, which is also the first time in 7 years that I get cards for organizing something. We also had two couples going around town looking for houses where they were here.
Really?
I hope they found some. The only complaint I had was directed against me for not doing that before. Even though the Grand Forks was not on our program for 2016, people enjoyed them so much, they wanted to come back. So the executive has voted to ask permission for us to return from June 22nd to June 26th, 2016. Once again, thank you very much to everybody concerned.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bernard. Yeah, what a compliment that they want to come back. I assume the answer is yes.
Absolutely. Can we keep the sign?
Yeah. Well, that might be quite the thing. They could have that number two.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really well done, and I want to thank you for the effort you put in. It was almost, I mean, you had a few helpers, but you did a lot of it single-handed, I know.
Oh, yeah.
So good work, and thank you from the town as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Hello, Julia.
Good morning, Mayor Taylor, Julia Butler. On July the 3rd, I sent an email to Mr. Taylor and to Doug Allen, and I haven't received a response yet. My email stated, it was brought to my attention yesterday that the city is in the process of replacing electrical meters. This isn't water meters, this is electrical meters on residential homes. These residents were told that they were the same meters as the old ones, but upon investigation of this claim, I discovered this not to be the case.
Except we, anticipating your concern and confusion at times with the difference in various kinds of waves, Mr. Allen has put together a response here on this, and he would like to give that at this time.
Excellent, that's what I was looking for, because that's what he had promised. Yeah.
So, Mr. Mayor, just to address this, we currently employ in our electrical meters the AMR
technology. The AMI is two-way communication, but we employ the AMR technology, which is a one-way communication. So unlike cellular phones where transmission is held close to the head, much of the RF energy is absorbed and localized in specific areas. RF energy in smart meters is typically transmitted a much greater distance from the human body. So what we're doing is we're sending out a signal from our electrical meters. We've been doing this since 2004.
No, these meters are different. The original meters that were on the hoses were sleeper meters. I'm just commenting on what he's saying.
So he's giving a presentation, so I think.
I was in the middle of giving a presentation to begin with.
And we were answering your questions, which you asked, which are we going to respond, to which we are responding. But if you're not going to let Mr. Allen do his presentation, it doesn't make much sense to go on.
Okay, I'll keep my comments to the end.
Thank you, Mr. Allen.
So Mr. Mayor, as part of this information, this comes from our qualified electrical engineer, and he has been working with Nelson Power for many, many years, and he actually brings the information to our organization, much the same as he brings it to Nelson. The other thing that we've been dealing with in this is our BC utility group, which is the 5 municipalities in BC that have this. We've been dealing with this issue as BC Hydro was bringing forward the information on smart meters. And we talked about what we need to do as a community. And we didn't need the ability to go out and basically go into the meters and have that two-way communication. We only need to be able to read the meters. And that's what we do with our electrical meters. Now the meters are new because some of them were from 2004 and they were being sent out, they were being taken out, and they get tested and they get sent down. And I had somebody send back a meter that they were doing a reading of these meters, and what I found from our electrical engineer was that you actually have to be qualified to and knowledgeable about this, and actually have properly calibrated equipment to read these, read this. And basically, what our electrical engineer was able to bring up the smart meters, and this is if you had smart meters. We're not even talking about smart meters. We're talking about one-way communications. But if you were dealing with a smart meter, and ours is a lot less than this. But I've talked to some people that were talking to me on their cell phone about these things, and they're exposed to. They're talking 125 to 1,250 times less exposure than the cell phone from their electrical meter. The other thing would be if you're in this room right now, you are exposure to 4 minutes to Wi-Fi to connect to the internet from a computer is the equivalent of 1 year being standing right beside a smart meter. So right now in this room, those who've been in here for that long have exposed themselves to that. Every time we go downtown in our community, every time we move around, we're exposed to these types of things. For a convention, if you're to attend a convention, it would be the equivalent. If you're at a convention for 4 days, you'd be exposed to 1,147 years of exposure to a smart meter. Mr. Mayor, our smart meters here, not this, our electrical meters that we have, because whether they call them smart meters or not, ours do not have the ability to shut off power at a specific home. We have to go there and disconnect. That's what the smart meters can do. We have one-way communications only to read. Electrical meters in Grand Forks transmit an RF signal every 30 seconds for 126 milliseconds. Each time there's a meter transmission of 363 seconds per day at 6 minutes a day of transmission. The water meters that we're proposing that are being installed in the community are 14 seconds and 7 milliseconds each time the meter is transmitted for an exposure of 43 seconds per day. And what we're talking about, Mr. Mayor, is the electrical meters that we employ they have more power, radio frequency power, than our water meters. But at the end of the day, the electrical meters are not, in the terminology, we have not employed the smart meter technology without bringing that to council. We would obviously bring that to council for communication, talk about it, because there was so much animosity in the province when the smart meters were introduced. I think that the staff at the time understood that, and we stayed with the same technology because we're a small enough electrical utility. We didn't need to go out and employ this type of technology in our community. We have the staff to do this type of work. In regards to industry standards, we are always within the electrical industry standards. We do not operate outside the law. We always operate within the law. We are never deviating from that, because at that point, Mr. Mayor, we are always exposed to liabilities and potential litigation. We operate within the law, and our electrical engineer is a very, very talented individual with many, many years of experience and background in this field, working for other utilities. And not only that, he helps represent the whole group with New Westminster, Summerland, Grand Forks, and Nelson, and Picton.
on the group, we all collaborate on this stuff, and this is what we're always hearing from the customers is, what about this, what about that? And this information is derived from all of that. So, Mr. Mayor, the information is before us, and we've got a few other samples. If we move down we talk about our exposure levels. Although this is the function for the AMR, the ability to automated monthly records, one-way output, I mean that, but tamper detection and load profiling. We don't do that. We don't have all those abilities. We just simply read the meters. And that's what we're doing with this. This is the technology we've had since 2004. We talked about the difficult exposures. Where our meters are, we talk about a microwave oven, a wireless computer, a cell phone. They're all way above where we are, what we're talking about here. A cordless telephone is way above this. A baby monitor is far more exposure than this.
Yeah,
we're talking about all these different things, even the different types of baby monitors. And this is from the Quebec government, from Hydro-Quebec. And if we go up to the next piece, Mr. Mayor, we talk about this. If we were using a BC Hydro smart meter, a baby monitor is over almost four times the exposure of a electrical smart meter. And we're not using the smart meter. We're way down here. A cell phone, when I'm talking to the customer about the meters and I'm on the cell phone, it's actually quite an interesting conversation because their exposure is way greater than the exposure to the meter. And this is where we have to understand the dynamics behind this. And this is why there's so many educated people in this field that come with, whether they're doctors or we're not. And I realize there's other stuff happening around the world, but we have to rely on our federal government to help lead us in this respect. And this is where we get our information. We do not operate outside these parameters. We simply take the information that we're provided to the federal government. We do not operate as a quasi-government. The federal legislation prevails, then the provincial legislation, and then the local government legislation. We do not go above the federal law, and we never operate above the federal law. And that's what I have for you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Allen. And Julia, thank you for your patience.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, this hasn't addressed any of the questions that I sent you in my letter.
Could you respond in more detail?
Yes, absolutely. My questions were, since these meters are adaptable, can you please adapt them to be sleeper meters like the original meters were on the houses? Because these are different meters, they are not sleeping. And they're easily adaptable. That's clearly stated in the industry standards. So I'm just asking that they be adapted to be
we do have an open house tomorrow from 3 to 7.
But this is a new topic about the electrical meters that we do a regular maintenance piece where we change out some meters to send them in for testing to ensure that our accuracy for our readings is accurate to our customers from the community, so they're not getting overbilled. We test these and we replace them with replacement meters. Now, whether they're sleeper meters or not, I have yet to get word back from Mr. Love, who was going to be here today, but he had a previous engagement, which we tried to arrange for him to be here. Unfortunately, he was not able to be here, and I'm sure he would be glad to be here in August to speak to us a little bit more about this. But again, whether they're programmed to be sleeper meters or not, I'm not sure about that detail. But our electrical engineer would be able to speak to that.
Yeah, and water meters are not going to be sleeper meters.
Water meters are, Mr. Mayor, water meters are way down. This would be the extent of the exposure for water meters would be that low.
All right. When I had spoken to your representative here at the city a few months back, he assured me that the meters that we had at the moment were sleeper meters.
At that time, I said, I believe they were. I never said they were. I believe they were. I don't know.
Okay.
Mr. Developer Nelson.
Okay, engaging the audience in discussion here is not what the
My first question was, can you adapt these sleeper meters? My second question, Mr. Mayor, could you please post the make, model, and capabilities of these meters on your website, and when these meters will be read?
Okay, so a request for more information on the website.
And Mr. Mayor, we did, the manager of operations was to respond to the request, and absolutely we can put the information on our meters on the website. With the reading time, because they're read so often, I mean, that's an opportunity for the customer to employ themselves, because we have to take staff holidays, we have to consider sick time, we have to consider everything that we're dealing with when it comes to vehicle operation, everything else. So we can pick a time that we're going to go read a meter, but it won't necessarily be 100% accurate.
So is there any reason to put it up there if we can't really make it accurate?
We can't commit to it. We have to do it within a window, but we can't necessarily commit to it. And it'd be hard for us to call each customers before we're going to do that, because chances are, because we're running a multi-million-dollar operation, it'd be difficult for us to do that. Remember all of those pieces to call a customer as well if we're coming by to read the meter.
Why would you want that?
The make, model, and I just
I can see the make and model, but what about
the capabilities of the meter, because these meters have the ability to be adapted into smart meters. If you attach a personality module to these meters, they can easily and quietly be adapted into smart meters without the public's knowledge. Thank you.
Oh my.
Excuse me, where should I drop off my comments, councillors?
You can drop them off to front office. Mr. Allen will come and get them.
Thank you. It's 4 pages stapled. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Go on.
This is in regard to what Julia had brought up, and I like that you put some charts up there. Regarding the electrical meters, I noticed, okay, first of all, the World Health Organization calls that radiation possible carcinogen class 2B. Those charts, we have Itron meters. If you go to Itron website, you will see how they compare the radiation of different things. And when they compare the cell phone radiation to the electrical meter and all these, what they do, they don't do it at the same distance. So they're comparing the cell phone to the head, and they're doing a certain distance away from the electrical meter. And so they're not comparing the strength of them all at the same distance. So I encourage you to take a look at those charts carefully so you can make a fair comparison. I'd like to let you know there is at least one person in Grand Forks who has cancer, who's had an operation on their face, and their electrical meter was changed to the new ones, and the new ones have been measured to be emitting a lot more radiation, and it is on the other side of their bedroom, and their head is beside it. So I highly encourage you to engage in discussion and make sure you carefully think this out. I'm concerned for that resident, so there's at least one resident in that situation. Class 2B, possible carcinogen, head close to it every night when they sleep.
Thank you, Donna. Sir.
Yeah, Tom Tripp, Grand Forks resident for almost a year.
Well,
thank you for hearing me. I'm only going to take about a minute, maybe 2 at the most. As a certified trainer for the Occupational Health and Safety Act, I've seen over the years how this book has been written in blood. It takes some incident or incidents to occur before changes are made. For instance, designated substances, arsenic, lead, mercury, asbestos. EMF is basically the equivalent to secondhand cigarette smoke. So as Canada eventually will bring down its levels and be more stringent in line with Europe's, we may have a problem here. And as my grade 10 teacher said, a word to the wise is sufficient. And is that available, Mr. Allen, that data? I like that.
This here?
If that's available somewhere.
We just put together today, we'll put it up on the website.
Yeah, I think it's very informative. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you. And might I say, though, you know, just in quick response, that I bet council could probably repeat every word you just said there, because we are alert and we are aware of what's being said out there. So
yeah, and that's good. Due diligence, section 25,
well, we
part
understand
3.
your argument.
Take every precaution reasonable in the circumstances for the protection
we
of people.
understand what you're saying.
I appreciate that.
You're right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, my husband comes back to sit down. I would just like to say that I hope that I wasn't the person that Mr. Allen was referring to when he said some, I don't know what he called us, maybe people who didn't really know what they were doing were taking the readings and sending an email. Because Mr. Mayor and Mr. Allen, I did send an email in to you with a number of questions, and I thank you very much that you have put your presentation material up there. However, no one has addressed the specific fact that when I took my electrosmog meter, this is bought from EMF Solutions in Canada. It is absolutely accurate, and it is not a cheap $20 meter. It doesn't look all that fancy, but it's a several $100 meter. It read, when I went to the home of the concerned resident, up to over 100, and these emissions were spiking every second. Now, our meter at home reads consistently between 5.5 and 6.5 when you hold the electrosmog meter right up to it. Exact same comparison with these meters, one on either side of a home here, 4 feet away, or maybe 6 feet away. Another home here, we're doing exactly the same thing. Every second, spiking up to over 100. Now, the European Council has said, and I'm not talking about ICN IRP, but I'm talking about the Bioinitiative report, which has set their emission standard at 1. And this was reading about 100 on those meters. No one has responded to that question yet for me, and I really would like some answers. And I'm saying that the people of this community have a right to know what's going on in their homes, how strong these emissions are. And as my husband says, every precaution should be made by the people who serve this community. And if there's any doubt whatsoever that there is possible danger, we need to be protected from that as citizens of this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. And I think.
Sure.
So, okay, we'll take a break right after this gentleman comments.
Hamilton, James Hamilton is my name. Thank you for the opportunity. So, I did some research, and I'll quickly read rather than talk about it. August the 17th, 2006, Anno Domini, Neptune Technology was chosen as the supplier of water meters and AMR system for the City of Atlanta's metering automation needs. 150,000 water meters in the city's service area. Comment by David McGinley, Vice President of that group. Atlanta's decision to move forward with Neptune's technology adds further validation that our products are addressing the key needs of progress-minded utilities. This is a very important endeavor for the City of Atlanta and its citizens. It represents the importance the city places on managing, conserving their water resources, and improving overall customer satisfaction, said David McGinley, Meter Services Man. We are proud to be entrusted with the execution of that program. Then, later on, 2011, Anno Domini, that's 6 to 11, 5 years later, CNN report, skyrocketing water bills mystify and anger residents. This is in Atlanta. Imagine paying as much for water as you do for mortgage. Residents throughout Atlanta are outraged by hundreds, thousands of dollars in monthly spikes in their water bills and have questioned the legitimacy of the charges. And now they're demanding answers. There's a lot of talking in here about different people, and they're going from $200 to $1,084 a bill, and so on. Automated meter reading technology eliminates the need for city workers to manually check every meter, and we know all about that. From the beginning, there were problems.
Wrap it up, please.
Wrap it up. That's a good point. What you're saying is, we've already made up our minds. Don't confuse us with facts. Here's a fact. There are dozens of litigation against this company. There are people all over America, after a few years, who are, Honolulu's another one. Basically, there were 54,000 meters installed in one particular city, 40,000 of which were found to be defective. And then the city was suing Neptune.
I'm going to call a recess, and we're going to meet back again here in a few
for
minutes.
refusing to honor their
Recess.
warranty
Thank you.
guarantees. Did you get that last part? Refusing to honor their warranty guarantees. Thank you for cutting me off, sir.
You're welcome.